So thanks to the BooktubeAthon, this month was an excellent month for reading, as well as books I read, a lot of them rated at 5 and 4-star ratings. So here comes my wrap up for the month of July. Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. Today it is my July wrap up, and July ended up being another awesome reading month, which I haven't had in a while. I've read about an average of 4-ish books a month. I think the last time, I can't even remember the last time I read more than 4. I'll look it up at some point. But I read 9 books this month, and a lot of that was to do with the BooktubeAthon. But even before the BooktubeAthon, I read 2 books in 1 week. I read a book right before that. So I was flying through books this month, and it was really cool. Plus, a lot of them were, like I said, hitting 4 and 5-star rating. So without further ado, I'm just going to jump into the books I read and some brief thoughts of what I thought about them. The first book was one that I was currently reading at the end of June, and because I filmed my wrap-up a little earlier, I actually finished it right at the end of June, and that was Jewel of the Thames by Angela Missouri. This is the first book in the Portia Adams adventures, which is set in the 1930s and has like a Sherlockish type female lead, and it starts off in Toronto but then takes place in London as Portia inherits the infamous location of 221B Baker Street. So Portia is left without her family and then finds out she inherits this mysterious location, and then finds a lot of connections that she actually has with 221B Baker Street. She ends up being pulled in as this kind of consulting detective, but she really wants to keep it a hobby as she's studying law. So a lot of shenanigans ensues with another fantastic female detective lead. I gave this book a 5-star rating. I just like how intelligent I feel when I read these books. Like the intelligence in the writing, in the conversation the characters have, in the thought processes, and in the mystery. It just felt like such an intelligent, fun book. And you have this really almost kind of relatable female lead for me. She likes a solitary life. She likes being introverted. She doesn't like going out and overly socializing, but she does like having very important people in her life close to her. Like she likes smaller groups of people close to her, which I really like about her. So you kind of have this introverted female Sherlock character, which I really enjoy. So it was a fun, entertaining read. Also a clean read in the series so far. I haven't come across anything. Of course, there's murders involved, so any descriptions in that. If you like the Herringford and Watts mystery series, you will absolutely adore the Portia Adams adventures. The next book I read was The Coronation by Olivia Jarmusch, which I have done a full-length review on. I'll leave that linked for you guys to check out. I won't go too much into it, but it's a modern-day monarchy story following a homeschooled family of 7 kids. So it's pretty much the Princess Diaries meets The Sound of Music is how I kind of thought of it. It was a fun, very fluffy, very lighthearted read, very cute read. I only give it a 3.5-star rating. There are too many things in there that were just too perfect, too safe, too much in a bubble that made a lot of other things really, really unrealistic. So along with that, I could only really give it a 3.5-star rating because there's a lot of things that I was either kind of bored with or annoyed with. But I still, of course, enjoyed it, and again, it's another book that I would guarantee a clean read. The next book was Unraveling by Sarah Ella. This is part 2 in the Unblemished trilogy. I was sent an advance release copy from Sarah Ella, the author. I have already filmed a review, so a full-length review is coming. This was also our Coffee Chapters and Christian YA book club pick for July, so a live show is coming for that as well, sometime mid to end August, so stay tuned for that. I really enjoyed this. I did only give it a 3.5-star rating though, because there were things that kind of annoyed me, and then there's some things that I kind of like meh, I could either give or take. Like I didn't hate them, but I didn't love them either. And then there's just some other things that were, like I said, kind of annoying and just couldn't be bothered with. But Eliana goes on this adventure to kind of save her world. I won't go too much into it because it is a second book in the series. I liked some of the side characters, and there was some other really fantastic character growth and development that I absolutely loved, which I'll talk about more in my review. So keep your eyes peeled. A review is coming. 3.5 stars. Very excited for book 3. I am so ready for book 3 already, and I'll probably give Unblemished a reread because of all the information going to be building up. So if you are going to read Unraveling though, I do highly recommend rereading Unblemished just to catch yourself up on a lot of the information on the world building, the family situations, and all of that jazz. So yeah, definitely do that. But Unbreakable's coming out till May. I have to wait till May. There's a bit of a cliffhanger at the end, but I love the way she built it up for the next book, so I'm totally ready for the next book. The next book I picked up was Recruits by Thomas Locke. This is a Christian science fiction fantasy novel which takes Sean and Dylan on an adventure when they discover that they can travel between different worlds and different planets. And a lot of danger and intrigue and stuff with aliens ensue. It's just a whole lot of sci-fi fun. I only gave it a 3-star rating though. Like, it is a really well written book and it's a lot of fun to read, but I felt like I was missing a lot of information in a lot of different sections. Like, we just kind of got thrown into this world and I was sitting there thinking I have no idea what's going on. For most of the book I felt like I had no idea what was going on and people just accepted that this is what was going on in the book, and I'm sitting there going, no, you need to tell me what's going on. And that's why I only gave it a 3-star rating, because I just couldn't follow what was going on, even though I did enjoy what I was reading. It's hard to explain. I'm finding sci-fi, I need a lot more information to get my brain wrapped around certain things, and that's what I definitely had with this book. I will be doing a review of this book and the second book closer to the release of the second book, which is in November, so stay tuned for that. We also announced that this was going to be our book club pick for the month of August, so you guys can read this because we are going to be reading the second book for our November pick, so you guys can get a jump start and read the first book. I really enjoyed it. It is a clean read, so I do guarantee it a clean read. Violence wise, it might be a little rough in some spots, but other than that, I don't think it was too bad. If you have any questions about content or anything before you pick up this book for the book club, just let me know in the comments below and I'll answer any concerns you guys have. The next book I picked up was The Evaporation of Sophie Snow by Mary Weber. This is the first book in a new duology by Mary Weber. As you guys know, her Storm Siren trilogy was not my favorite book series. However, I was more intrigued by her sci-fi. I really actually enjoyed this book, but I will give it a moderate content rating. I will be doing a full-length review coming out, and that one is probably one of my longest reviews because there's a lot of things I wanted to cover with this book, and I had a lot of problems with it, but there was a lot of stuff I enjoyed about this book. So like I said, moderate content rating, so just a heads up when you guys want to pick up this book. So this is a sci-fi, again, a lot of sci-fi this month. So this is a sci-fi duology which kind of features around online gaming. There's an alien race involved, and it's like it's set in a dystopian world. So we're following Sophie and her brother Shiloh, who are part of these games, and Shiloh is like the in-game live gamer, and Sophie is kind of the outer gamer who does like the codes and the in-gaming coding and stuff to help Shiloh within the games. And then a bomb is set off which sets off a whole lot of events but sends Sophie searching for her missing brother, who she suspects has been taken by the Delanese, which is the alien race. So a lot of stuff going on in this book. I really enjoyed her sci-fi world better than her fantasy world. The world building was a lot better. The characters are still really meh for me. I'll give you guys way more detail in my review that I have coming up this month. I'll link it once it's set. And yeah, 3.5-star rating. Unfortunately not very good on the content rating either. After that, the BooktubeAthon started, and so to kick off the BooktubeAthon, I started with Rebel Rising by Beth Revis. This is the Star Wars YA and canon books they have released. I loved it so much I went and bought it before the BooktubeAthon was over. I only gave this, I think, a 4-star rating. There is some mild content in there. It doesn't go into any too much in-depth or detail, but there's just an understanding of certain things that happen. But I give it more like a mild moderate. It's pretty in the medium there, and it doesn't give you too much detail or description. I really enjoyed having a background story to Jin, kind of starting off where she was rescued from Saw in the movie, and then kind of filling in between Saw rescuing her as an 8-year-old child to her getting picked up by the rebellion. So you get all of that in between up there. Jin goes through a lot in her life, and you just have a whirlwind of an adventure with this girl and kind of get into her head a bit more. And I really enjoyed that. They did change a bit of Jin's personality and what Jin thought and felt about certain things, and then kind of at the end conveniently switched it so that this Jin will match the movie Jin. And I didn't really like that, because if you're already going to write a character that's already set in a franchise in a different medium, then you need to continue on that same type of character and try not to make anything too convenient with that. So it just kind of conveniently at the end they made book Jin into movie Jin, which I was kind of like, no, it should have been a little bit more consistent. But like I said, I gave it a 4-star rating overall. Jyn Erso stays to be one of my favorite Star Wars characters, as Rogue One is one of my favorite Star Wars movies so far, and I just loved having a book set on her. The next book I picked up, I have actually not returned to the library yet, so I get to show you guys in my wrap-up physically, and that was Thrice Burned, a Portia Adams adventure. This is the second book in the Portia Adams series. I read this again for the BooktubeAthon. Again, this has that intelligent feeling when you're reading it, and you find a lot more of the Sherlock story that kind of bleeds into Portia Adams' story as she continues on her hobby of being a consulting detective from her residence of 221B Baker Street. A lot more things start coming to light, a lot more of her mysteries start getting a lot more intense, and I think you're starting to get that underlying feeling of a bigger enemy that she is fighting. Again, same kind of thing you had with Sherlock. So I love how we're building into that, and you're just kind of following that Sherlock theme. And I love when people are doing these Sherlock stories. Overall, I gave this one a 4-star rating. I didn't love it as much as the first one, but I still really, really enjoyed it. This one I gave more of a moderate, mild content rating because it's still pretty mild. There's just more gruesome things involving murders and deaths and crimes and the way certain people are treated. So just a heads up for that. But overall, I still would pretty much be okay with the content in this book. The next book I read for the BooktubeAthon ended up being my least favorite book of this month, and that was The Journey to the Center of the Earth by Jules Verne. I wanted to read more classics this year, so I picked up The Journey to the Center of the Earth. I thought I would enjoy this because I enjoyed all the abridged versions for kids and any of the movie adaptations I grew up. I had the great illustrated classics for children of this book, and I really enjoyed it. But this one is so much science talk and monologues and just random rabbit trails of stuff that I didn't need to know for the story to go along, and nothing really happened. There was no action, there was nothing. Like, a abridged version made this sound more exciting, like movies made this sound more exciting. This was just a very science-y book. So, but it's a really good classic science fiction book. It was still really well written, and the writing and everything was really good. It was just a very boring book. So overall, I gave it a 2-star rating. I just wasn't impressed. My book also fell apart, which I wasn't very happy with. But I also buddy read this with Felicia, and I think she was having the same problems as I did with just nothing happening. The last book I finished for this month and for the BooktubeAthon was Elemental by Anthony John. This was a straight up cover buy for me. I didn't know really what this was about or what I was getting into, but I really liked the cover, and the series was on Book Outlet, so this fit one of the challenges for the BooktubeAthon, and thankfully I enjoyed it. I gave it a 3.5-star rating. It wasn't amazing. It didn't blow my mind. It's kind of set in this, well, you think it's a fantasy world, but it actually ends up being a dystopian world after some plague and stuff kind of takes over our world. You have this colony of guardians and these people who can control elements. So you have earth, wind, fire, water, all those types of elements people can control. Tom is one of the first children born in this colony without an element, or so he thinks. This huge storm comings that the Guardians could not predict, which then throws into a lot of events that happen that leads Tom to discover there's a lot more secrets happening that he ever knew about, especially when it comes to him without an element. So it followed this group of kids. At first they're being sheltered from the storm, and then a lot of things happened. Pirates got involved somehow. So a great fun fantasy read. It was still, again, hard to follow as to why certain things were happening, and certain things just kind of felt thrown in there. The writing was pretty good. I mean, it wasn't the best writing in the world for me. I wasn't drawn to any of the characters. There's a really weird, strange love triangle. I think most of the kids in this book, I think the oldest were like 17, 16, so most of them were like 15 to 17. But there's just really weird love triangle going on that I couldn't really figure out. But yeah, like I said, overall a 3.5-star rating. Also would put this on a mild scale of content rating. Like, this was a pretty clean book. There might be some violence in it, but it wasn't very brutal violence at all. It was still a pretty mild, clean read. So 9 books. 9 books, you guys. Like, that is a really good reading month. I enjoyed a lot of them. I read a lot of them really quickly. It was just a really good mood and a month to be reading again. So that's exciting. And again, I'm starting up a second job, so we'll see how much time I have for reading. But now when I'm busy, I don't just come home and just feel like I'm doing nothing with my life. I can come home and I've earned this break, you know, I've earned this chance to sit and read, which is, I'm kind of excited to have a second job. Even though it might take some time away from other things, I'm okay with it. So those are all the books I read this month. Let me know in the comments below if you had any favorite books or you discovered any new books that you really love this month. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye!